Everyone. This is Adam Hart, and this is Mr. David.
Yes, hi. How you doing there, Adam?
I'm doing well, and I want to share a couple situations um, for which I think the universe kind of smiled upon me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's there's one situation. I'll go from future to past.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one situation. I was on a volunteer detail during my military duty this past weekend, and there was a vaporizer left on the ground overnight, and those are one of the tools to help quit smoking. Um, and I think once you use one of those, eventually you get used to nicotine. Eventually, at a willpower, you just get bored of the nicotine and you just stop using. And I think that was a smile from the universe because, eventually I will stop using cigarettes and I will stop using nicotine. Another situation, it was a you had me at hello situation, whereas I went to this one, um, it, it's a very wealthy gas station, and there was this female firefighter, and it wasn't it wasn't awkward at all. Um, we kept exchanging looks. We kept smiling at each other, exchanging looks. She was with her supervisor, I assume, and it was it was like the last time we looked at each other. We just smiled and maintained eye contact. And I guess there are more, but I guess those two are the most significant in my opinion. Um, this is the Human Equations podcast. If you made it this far, I congratulate you. David and I have had wonderful conversations, as I have said in the podcast announcement. So, what do you have to say for yourself, David?
Well, I'm pretty happy that you have female firefighters to be able to smile at. I think that's inspiring.
And
And yeah,
she
go ahead.
was she was very beautiful, and
Oh,
and I consider myself half, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I consider myself half genetic alpha. And I think that's why she smiled at me, because she saw me as a beautiful male. I saw her as a beautiful female. We smiled at each other. We maintained eye contact. But, recently I just think that my happiness just radiates onto people in some sort of way. I cannot explain it.
well, it's about all of us. We all emit an energy field. They call it the aura, other names for it too. And that energy varies in intensity from individual to individual, it seems. Um, and so what you're saying is you're very perceptive of the fact that you can project your energy, away from yourself and actually have an effect on other people. You can direct it towards a person. Where your focus goes is where your energy goes. So yeah, that's an that's an obvious thing. And for me, I understand this from a from an energetic level, but I also understand it from the physics of energy as well, understanding how that works. And many people think that you know they're not aware of the energy around them. That for some reason, it's like having no sense of touch, so to speak. They can't feel it unless it's right there. And
Right.
yeah, I mean, the more subtle forms of energy, like the smile and the focus that way. You know, uh, I do it all the time. I mean, something catches my eye, and I focus on it. And you have to do it in a loving way, otherwise you can intimidate whatever you focus on. Because the energy is based on your emotional state as well.
And I agree with that. I mean, there was another quote unquote you had me at hello
Yeah.
moment where it was over a mile. It was over a rural drive. It was over a mile. I was driving. There was a female behind me, and time to time, we caught eyes with each other in the rear view mirror. And eventually, after a few minutes, we came up to this intersection, and I was in the left turn lane. She had to make a right turn, and we waved to each other, you know, as she went into the right turn lane.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And it would it was just weird to me. Just as she drove into that right turn lane, we just waved to each other like it was natural.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I think that's wonderful, and I can't say that I haven't had the same experiences. My vintage, I'm a lot older than you are, but I can tell you that that doesn't change with age. It it becomes uh, well, it depends on I guess the individual and their experiences and how they respond to what's happening to them. Or what's happening for them. I say nothing happens to us, it happens for us. Now, why would it happen for us? It would happen for us, the experiences happen for us to learn from. So if we learn from the experience and carry those lessons forward into our decision making processes as we move forward through time, then we can either repeat a success or avoid a failure.
I agree. Just
It's called learning. Yeah.
definitely.
But sometimes you got to put it into words, and include the universe's only unidirectional force, which is the passage of time. Time only travels in one direction. So the past can only serve us in one way, is what we can learn from it and carry. And we didn't learn anything if we don't carry those lessons forward in time.
Right.
I've learned lessons a couple of times. I had to learn them because I learned them, and then I was okay, and then I forgot the lesson, and then I made so then I had to learn it again. So, proper health and well-being, not just the physical, but the mental and emotional, and even the creative state, need to be intact for us to actually, I guess what I would call serve the purpose of life, which is to grow, to know better, so that we can do better, so that we can be better. Now all we got to do is figure out what's better.
Exactly.
It's beautiful. Like, this universe is perfect. It's 100% reliable, meaning it will, you can you can guarantee that that the natural order of the universe, that the fabric, so to speak, that holds it together, will always be enforced. Always, always.
I agree.
Yeah. Excuse me.
I mean,
So,
just over these 2 days, I learned how um people people love gestures, and not many people do gestures. Last night I created it was a slight bow gesture, influenced actually influenced from a game and another culture, but it's not like I call it like the slight but respectful bow.
mm,
And my friend didn't quite understand it. He thought I was doing a full Asian bow
mhm,
because he knows I'm half Asian, but I was like, no, 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 it's not a full bow. It's a slight bow. And to kind of prove it to him last night, or actually 2 nights ago, I did it to a hotel receptionist and asked her what she thought about it. She thought it was mutual respect, which to many people, I haven't done slight bows. I've done slight nods, and they've seen it as respect.
mhm,
So when I did this slight bow to this hotel receptionist, she saw it as a gesture of mutual respect. And even today, when I was pulling out of the parking lot, one of my sergeants, she was reversing out of her parking spot as well, and I gave a gesture because she reversed in front of me, I reversed in front of her. I gave her a gesture of, did this really happen? And she laughed. She found it very humorous, and I found humans, or just people in general, they love gestures.
mm,
If it's humorous, if it's positive, if it's loving, if
mhm,
it's respectful, people people love that. People admire that.
yes. Well,
But
I mean,
I
yeah.
also think that, as well as gestures, I think my happiness also radiates
Hmm,
because I did a prideful gesture towards the sun because it was very cold in the morning. And when it got warmer, I raised my arms parallel and I did a prideful gesture toward the sun with no prideful intent. It was
mhm,
out of humor,
yeah.
but it's like out of happiness and humor, other people found it humorous. They didn't find it egotistical or
Yeah.
anything negative like that.
Hmm. Well, I think that any time that we give credit to, you know, uh, a source of energy such as powerful as the sun, even in jest, you know, that's that's like, to me. I don't know. I certainly feel good when the sun's beating down on me. Excuse me.
That's why I
And
did it in a joyful intent. It seemed, if I think if a mainstream person would have seen it, they would have think I would have done it in a prideful manner, but I did it in a humorous and joyful manner because I was many people were waiting for the sun for many hours to give us warmth.
Mm. Yeah. Hmm. Well, I'm glad it came up for you, and I'm telling you, that's one of those reliable things too. Part of the natural order of the universe. It won't fail us. It's
So,
it, it's always going to come up. So, did you want to talk about the our place within the universe? Like what role do we play, especially being so unpredictable? You know,
there's
we're.
one situation.
Mhm.
I don't think this is too embarrassing to talk about, but I went to the bar, you know, it was a Ruby Tuesday next to the hotel. I don't normally go to the bar.
Mhm.
I went to the bar to hopefully look for, my military friends, and they weren't there, but that was fine. I
Mhm.
went to have a seat. I ordered, a 24-ounce Samuel Adams. So he gave me a Samuel Adams, and next to me was this woman in her 50s,
Mhm.
and we just had a wonderful conversation. Um, you know, she just had doubts because her husband would teach her children just sports, 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 yet they were smart enough to do other things. And I was like, you don't have to regret that because, my parents didn't push anything on me, yet I was able to teach myself piano when I was my senior year in high school. And years later, when I met up with my parents again, you know, I was able to play my parents' hymnal right and left hand on the piano and surprise my parents. And I think she got another perspective off of that.
Yeah.
And I'm a 26-year-old. She was in her early 50s.
Yeah. Often people of our vintage, like the my vintage, that's what you're talking about there. We we're pretty set in our ways, meaning it's hard for us to well, I think a lot of times, hmm, see my two children that I raised, I was happy no matter what they did. If they were happy doing what they were doing, then I was happy for them. Their life becomes their own, in adulthood. But I mean, you have to train them, uh, when they're in their formative years. Those are the formatting years. You have to actually help them make decisions. So you'd have to allow them to make decisions. So any parent that wants to impose their will on their children is not really serving their children's best interests. They may
Not
think
at
they are.
all.
Yeah, they may think that they are, but they're actually not. So um, I mean, I've talked to so many people my age that say, "Well, my parents wanted me to be a doctor. I don't like being a doctor," or my parents wanted me to be a lawyer, and it wasn't their true calling. They wanted to do something else. But the parents knew that those professions would provide great economic, rewards for them. They would never
Right.
run out of work. They wouldn't get laid off, and they're not gonna. So this idea of, they had other talents and things like that, uh, as parents, the best thing we can do, I think, is to be fairly neutral, but in an inspiring way, meaning give your child the inspiration and courage to make an attempt to try as many things as possible. We're here to experience, but as parents, we're supposed to guide them so that they understand that certain things aren't safe. So you have to protect them from the things that are not safe to do, that we know are not safe to do. Like, for example, experimenting or playing around with drugs. Not very safe. It depends on the kind of drug too, I understand. But it's these are dangers, because 1.2 or 1.8%, I can't remember the number, of our population has natural addictive tendencies towards specific types of drugs. But we all have addictive personalities, in that serves the economic agenda. Like how we're going to feel so much better when we buy this, whatever it is that we want to buy. When in fact it doesn't do what, the purchase of it, what we thought it would give us. It won't give us that emotional sense of comfort or whatever we think we're going to get out of buying something.
Well, it's well, in my mind, I'm thinking, why the hell do you have a 30-second ad when it could be 10 seconds long? And I wouldn't buy that in the first freaking place.
Mm-hmm.
But the drug thing, it's weird, because I saw the movie Face Off, and you had the good and the evil. You had them switch bodies in a way, and you had the bad guy kind of switch into the good guy body. He saw, a teenager try to rape a daughter that wasn't his. He took out, the teenager that tried to rape a daughter that wasn't his, and he beat the crap out of the person who tried to rape a daughter that wasn't his.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards, he tried to comfort her, trying to talk about a son that wasn't his, and try to comfort her that way, and try to offer her, a cigarette to kind of calm her down. And afterwards was like, here's a knife. You really got to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's just stuff like that. It's just confusing. It's like, how do we? But that's just American culture. I don't know about Canadian culture.
Oh, it's the same. It is the same, and I mean that with all, honesty and integrity. From what I can tell, the Canadian culture, like, we would like to think we're different, but we're not. We're the same. We have the same influences in Canada that you have in the United States. We have the same television programs. We have the same music. We have the same radio. We have the same commercials, advertising. We have the same propaganda. We are not different. We are not. We're different in some ways, in the regard that we have far more compassion in some regards, not much different. When it comes to the social programs, to support the people who, are not necessarily lazy, but maybe don't have the ability to actually be productive in our society. The ability to be on time, the ability to, get to a task done, and things like that. And that's because, and I mean, you're going to know that this is such an important thing, is that they're not fueled properly. And there are more and more people who are diminished to the point where they're not able to function successfully in our society. And that's due to the depletion of nutrition in our food supply, which actually nutrition is the fuel that fuels the cognitive abilities, emotional stability, and creativity, within us. So when we diminish our food supply of nutrition, we diminish all of that within the population of humanity. So that means that there's going to be a lot less smart people and a lot more not so smart people, because nutrition is required for proper brain development and all the rest. I mean, our children are having a very hard time right now. And they, as a matter of fact, if things don't change, by the year 2025, over 50% of the babies born will be autistic. And this can be traced back directly to a lack of nutrition. And it's sad because we know how to maintain nutrition in our food supply, should that be our intention to do so. It is not maintained by virtue of the fact that it's profitable to have sick people. And it takes less money to do the recycling, of the nutrition, putting it back in the soil once we're done with it. It seems as though this is happening not because we don't know what's happening, but because we know it will create jobs. Cancer can be directly attributed to nutritional deficiencies. And many people in Canada here that I know who have gotten cancer have adopted not a few things. Because there's many things we can do when we get sick, but the number one thing you got to do is make sure you get your nutrition, and make sure the nutrition that you ingest, that you take, is bioavailable. It has to be in the proper form for our bodies to be able to pick it up and use it in the chemistry of maintaining our body. And there's better forms of nutrition than others. The organic forms are what's naturally presented to us, so those are naturally better. But a lot of the chemistry that we do in the lab, to make up our vitamins and everything, they're just not in the proper form. They're not bioavailable to us. So the best thing we could do would be to make sure that we recycle all the nutrition, so that whatever we take from the soil we put back, so it can continue to provide what it can provide, which is health and well-being for us.
And I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. What I don't understand is what, can't doctors provide, prospecting mothers with, pamphlets of just what they should have within their diet? I mean, it could be Canada or America.
Yep.
Just, some kind of pamphlet of what their diet should be.
Well, the truth of the matter is, Adam, that no matter what you buy from the grocery store, it's already depleted or diminished in nutrition. The only thing that was, and if we stopped the one-way flow of nutrition out of our soils, and let's follow the little trail which goes from The soil the plants grow roots in the soil. They mine the nutrition out of the soil. It goes into our food. The food goes to the grocery store. We eat it. Our bodies have a full complement of those nutrients, and they never return to the soil. So they're taken out of the. That's a linear flow, and then our waste doesn't go back to the soil. It goes to our lakes and streams and all kinds of other septic systems, but that never goes back to the soil. So that's all that is real material. Our bodies are made of real minerals, and they've been taken out of the soil. And if we don't put them back, they're going to not go back in the soil. So that's a pretty simple concept. It's not that hard to figure out, and hard to deny that it's a problem. Especially with all the diagnostics that we have, the diagnosis is that are that we're malnourished. It's incredible, and to me, that not everybody's up in arms about this, and actually complaining, to our leaders, that they're not doing their job well. They're not looking after our health and well-being. When you elect, I don't care who, every one of them are failing. Every one of them. There's not one that's going to do it, so that means none of them will do it. So it doesn't matter which one you vote for, they're not going to do it. And the problem will continue. Yeah. And it will get worse year after year after year. It gets worse.
And it's just perpetuated in culture in America because we socialize each other to follow gender stereotypes. I mean, I was just stereotyped, jokingly, mind you. I was just stereotyped jokingly a few days ago. She was smart. She was smart. She didn't, she didn't mean any harm, as in stereotyping me. It was just a joke.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned that, peanut butter really complements ramen, and she was like jokingly saying, "Oh, that's single guy talk." So then I said, "Single guy talk. Okay, so the day before Thanksgiving, I made a home cooked meal to my roommates and myself, a home cooked meal that would have made a restaurant known as Cracker Barrel in America run for its money. That was how good it was. That was really efficient, really nutritious, and she said she was joking about it, and I really believe it.
Well,
Peanut butter ramen that was introduced to me by a married Asian man, and I myself am and half Asian, but I'm single. But she was joking about the single male stereotype.
yeah. Well, tell me what the single male stereotype is in America.
It's hard. It's really hard because I believe, in the free culture and the the freedom from socialization. So it's really hard because it differs from every subculture. So it could be really disgusting. I'll give you some direct stereotypes. single male culture. My mom thinks she's entitled to know who I voted for every presidential election. And
Wow.
if I don't tell her, she
Hmm.
gets offended,
Wow.
even though I had the right not to tell anyone who I voted for.
That's right. Yeah. So you have the right to remain silent.
I do.
You know, I would never recommend that for anybody. You know, I wouldn't recommend anybody remain silent because, you know, if you're going to vote for anybody, you want to be able to tell people proudly who you voted for and then take whatever criticisms that come. Because, you know, if there are any criticisms at all, and if there are, you know, check them out, see if they're valid. See if they're valid.
Well, it's like eventually that year, which was a couple of years ago, I eventually told my dad I voted for Gary Johnson
Mm-hmm.
just so the small guy, you know, could get more people voting for him. Because if supposedly during that year, if he got enough votes, then he could get, government funding. He wasn't conservative, but he wasn't liberal. He was in the middle. But
You
it's like
know,
in
here
American culture, you have that freedom to, withhold information from
I agree.
people that you that you feel shouldn't have that information.
Hmm. Well, I
And
would. It's the same in Canada. We have the same rights, and you know, we don't have to disclose anything. But at the same time, you know, I I always I always tell people who I vote for and why. But I haven't voted in quite a while because I've come to the understanding that I can't. There's none of the political parties in Canada, as of yet, anyways, that are willing to make any significant changes that'll make a difference. You know, we have a group of people called that are supporting something they call direct democracy, and that's where you know any of the issues that come up of the day, we get a vote on them. You know, it's not like we place our vote and whoever we vote for gets to dictate to us whether we go to war or not. You know, whether we have health care or not, public health care. And sometimes that dictates whether we get health care or not. You know, here in Canada, we have a universal healthcare system, and so do many other countries. And at least people in Canada don't lose their homes because they get sick and have to go to the hospital. So that's where we differ in a bit of a, you know, quite a bit. We have more social conscience and more social programs. But then in the United States, those programs are not supported because they feel that it takes away from them and that they're being taxed, you know, at high rates because of them. And they don't think that's fair. And I would have to agree. I think taxation is not fair.
I'll be right with you. Just kind of walk across.
Hmm. You know, with when you are a spiritual person, understanding that you are eternal, understanding that you're equal, and understanding at the same time as you're equal, you're different. We're all different. Um, but there's more than enough to go around. The only thing is it's mismanaged.
Right.
It's yeah, and it's mismanaged for the profit motive. You know, that's that's all there is to it. It's incredibly crazy to me that we're going to compete ourselves out of business.
Sounds like a monopoly.
It is. It is. It most certainly is. I mean, I have a lot of friends of mine who are police officers, and I really do respect the police, the people who do the job. But if they do the job in a way that is harmful or disrespectful to the people, then I can't see that, being a good reflection upon, the muscle of society when they use the muscle when it's not appropriate.
See, this is. I think this is a tragedy of the policeman. Is the policeman or policewoman, they want to do the right thing,
Of
but the
course.
police chief is, he's under a corrupt thumb. That could be the state, that could be the higher ups, and he gives a really bad order against that county, and no police officer wants to follow it. But in order to get that paycheck, in order to live, in order to, support the husband, wife, or child,
Mhm.
it's like they had no choice but to follow that order, or else, they're fired.
Mhm.
And
That's
when
right.
they're fired, they have they have nothing else to do.
I understand. It's kind of like a form of coercion.
I'm listening.
The coercion comes from the dependency on our economic system for survival.
Right.
They're not doing this out of their free will, but they are still doing it. And there is going to be, I I think that the universe, when I say that, we live in a cause and effect universe, that's really a karmic universe, karma. And you're not going to get away with telling the universe, well, I had to feed my family, so that's why I did what I did that hurt others. Because we do not have the right to harm another. We do not have a right to steal. Then when you kill somebody, you've stolen their life. So we don't have the right to kill anybody. And we don't have the right to hurt them. No matter what they're doing. No matter what they've done. You see, the kind of funny thing is that here we're saying killing people is bad. So we got people over on the other side of the world killing people. So we got over there and kill them to show them that killing is bad. There's a little problem there. I mean, if you want to lead by example, don't kill. But don't let them continue to kill. But when we go over there, we're basically killing people. And I know that it sounds kind of like, well, it would sound to me as though the moral compass about thou shalt not kill, it's in the Bible, they change it to say thou shalt not kill unless thy government says it's cool. Well, that's not cool. We should not kill. And if people are trying to kill us, we have enough might and strength in the Western world to protect ourselves against all of that. If ISIS wanted to come to Canada and do something, we've got a police force here that'll take care of them. And if they can't, we also have a military that can take care of them here on our own soil without an issue. And that's self-defense. And we're entitled to self-defense under natural law. Now, we do not have and are not entitled to an attack or a preemptive attack or any kind of offense where we go there and we attack a country that really hasn't attacked us, only because they got a certain religious belief there, which ain't the country. That's just the religious belief.
Right.
And we break all the laws of the UN, the Geneva Convention, that says preemptive attacks are unlawful under world law. So we disregard the law as a country, and we go with George Bush, the coalition of the killing, and attack. We attack people, other countries, you know, and that's against the law, natural law and man-made law. But I mean, people don't really seem to think that that's a problem to break the law if they're afraid. If they're living in a state of fear that some little group attacked, even when Bin Laden, some people in a cave, are going to make it over here and do something, to the U.S. people. I mean, even the 9/11 event was very suspicious. Very suspicious. And, it didn't make sense to a lot of people. And that's because it didn't make sense, what we were told, And we're told that they hate us because why? Why would they hate us? I don't know. I mean, I don't think believing anything is good. I think um, our beliefs are like assumptions, okay, at best. We're just assuming we know something when we have no real evidence of it. Um, and uh, so, if we don't use our powers to discern, what's real, what's not real, what's the motive behind whatever it is that we're being told to do or, uh, taught to believe, you know. um, I mean, if Christianity and Muslim beliefs worked, because they're the biggest two religions, if they worked, we wouldn't be fighting. That's proof positive it's a failure. True, right, and wrong. It needs to be adhered to, and I don't see how people can't know what's right, and maybe because they don't know what we're doing is wrong.
Do you want my 2 cents, Dave?
Of course, I do.
This is going to come down hard. Are you sure? I hope you do.
I am very sure you're. I respect you, and I appreciate that you listen to me, and um, I'm going to do the same for you.
And I really do appreciate the conversations we have. Even I left out one of those "you had me at hello" conversations. All right, I already talked about the woman in her 50s. I'm being dumb.
No,
Um,
no, no. I like women too.
well, it was weird because I already told you how dressing in black represent prestige and professionalism, and um, I didn't even tell you that she told me that I reminded her of her son,
Mm.
and I even told her about my family. how they were kind of similar,
Mhm.
but really different.
Yeah.
Um, her her family was very versatile, but the father, her former husband, always pushed, sports, 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 sports. And, my cousins, you know, it's about sports, music, and, versatility, just being well-rounded.
Mhm.
And I thought our families were similar. I thought she had a similar family. She had intelligent daughters who were in sports, but were in a very strict family, as in their father was very strict. Whereas in whereas my cousins, they were sort of strict, not too strict, but there was sports, there was art, there was learning of a different language, there was private school, there was public school, and and it was the same with her family. She tried a combination of, private school and public school. I guess it was a difference in parental authority. Similar families, but different style of authority.
Yeah.
But I digress. There was my 2 cents about, you know, Christianity. All right, first century Christianity was supposed to be morality, community, faith in God.
Mhm.
That's all first Christianity was supposed to be.
Mhm.
And there was
Yeah.
that peace factor. And it was just morality, community, and faith, and, just a change in culture because they would go from this prestigious, prideful culture to this humble culture, which, humbleness was part of morality. So you
Yeah.
had the morality, you had the faith, you had the community. Centuries later, you had Constantinople. It was like, I'm going to claim Christianity as a state religion. That's when it gets, that's when it gets fucked. That's when
Yeah.
Christianity gets fucked. That's when centuries later, religion gets used as a tool because you had civilizations that would try and conquer other civilizations.
Mhm.
One would try to use Christianity as a tool. The other would try to use Islam as a tool.
Yeah.
Religion was used as a tool, and people and atheists would mistake it Christians versus Muslims. That that wasn't it. Christianity was used as a tool. Islam was used as everything was used as a tool to conquer. If you study ancient history, anything could be used as a tool. In feudalism, anything.
Mhm.
If Christianity could be used to conquer in a feudalistic medieval age, they would use Christianity to kill people. They would use anything to kill people.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
And people blame religion when religion was just used as a tool. And it's just sickening.
Yeah.
But it's still sickening how religion is used today to kill people.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah. We didn't learn anything. History repeats itself because we didn't learn anything. It continues because we haven't stopped it. We don't know we don't know what's wrong.
It's just
Hmm.
it's just weird. 1700s to the 21st century
Hmm.
took a few hundred years, and we have advanced, we have advanced missiles and bombs, and it took just what 300 or 400 years.
Hmm.
That's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I know. And I think it is too.
And I don't like how, religion was used as a tool
Yeah. And it
because
and it and it was really abused.
I agree. And
Yeah.
I think I should let you talk because I've been rambling on this whole time without letting you talk.
Well, no worries. I like to hear, I think that we need to give each other our space to be able to communicate.
I like that. I do like personal space, and I I sometimes think you're like an older an older form of myself, to be honest. I'm only 26, as I've told you before.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you're going to go beyond where I'm at in understanding what in the world is going on. Eventually, it's going to be exposed to us, where we won't be able to deny any of the craziness anymore. Um, but the sad part about it is it doesn't have to be that way, you know, and that's what hurts me. We don't need to hurt each other the way we do. We don't. We just don't. Now, there's all these beliefs out there that we're overpopulated and the da 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 and all kinds of other things. Well, look at your people are having a race to see who can produce the most kids, the Christians or the Muslims. Right now, I think the Muslims are outnumbering, in the reproduction side of things. But that in itself is a corruption of humanity, all on its own. I mean, to bore kids, to have kids born, to be able to increase the size of your team, basically, is not a reason to have kids. You want to have children so that you have the opportunity to raise these children to have a good life, not to serve, false objectives or deities, uh, not really doing our own investigation about, because there are a lot of very intelligent people out there. They have great intellect, but they believe things and don't question them. And smart people should always question what they believe. Smart people should always question their motives before they do anything to see what's motivating them, and is it a problem? Your motivations, so why you do things. If your motives are off, boy, forget it. The results are probably going to be off. You know, and so I think that's one of the most important things is check our motives. The next thing we need to do if we want to have a truly rich and vibrant and prosperous society is honesty. Honesty. Currently, right now, in our systems, there's no honesty. There are none. I'm not saying there's no honesty in the people, but that's diminished by the system quite a bit. When I went to court here in Canada, and it's the same in the United States, we're all governed under the Admiralty Law Acts. over the seas, which has been transposed onto us here in our countries. And the job of the courts is supposed to be to protect our sovereignty and democracy and freedoms and all those things. However, if somebody is charged with an offense and it goes to court, well, the Crown is not looking to find, here in Canada called the Crown, in the United States I think you call them the prosecutor. The prosecutor is not looking for the truth. Do you know what the prosecutor is looking for?
Profit.
A conviction. Yes. Because that profits the system, because that's a make work project for all the jail guards and the lawyers and the judges and even the politicians. So what they're doing is when you have an unjust system which is not seeking justice, being called the justice system, now there's some confusion, because people think that that's justice when you have a Crown who has all the wherewithal that the commons provide for him, meaning the Crown can subpoena whoever they want. It doesn't cost the Crown anything. It's all paid for by our governments and that. But if an individual wants to do it, they have to pay. They have to pay to file the subpoenas, and then they have to deliver it, and they have to serve them. And they don't have the wherewithal that the Crown does. They just send the police out to serve serve a summons to go to court. To be a witness. But I mean, if there is a witness that discredits, the charges that were laid, then that witness is not called. Even though that witness might have been on the scene where other people are not even on the scene and are just listening to hearsay, didn't do any investigative portion at all. So this is like that in the it is like that in the United States. It is like that here in Canada as well. So the prosecutors are not looking for justice, they're looking for a conviction. That puts another notch in their belt, that gets them closer to being a judge. Most of them all want to be a Supreme Court judge. They're in this delusional state of being, that somehow they're going to make it there. So, and the way they're going to make it there is by playing the game. More convictions, hey, you might get picked over somebody else to be, in a better position.
Well,
in the legal.
I'm listening, but it's just so sad.
It is.
What you're saying is right, but it's regardless of what you're saying, our divorce court system is so laughable, is that we have a documentary on how it's so corrupt, and the lawyers just laugh and they make fun, even though we had this documentary, and everybody just plays it off, even though, the small people who are victims, they're pissed.
Yeah.
Pissed.
Yes, and rightfully so. Rightfully so.
They haven't even seen this documentary. They've experienced it without even seeing this documentary. This documentary where lawyers admit to injustice just to make
money.
Exactly.
So we have a common denominator in all the injustices and needless pain and suffering going on in the world.
Right.
And that common denominator happens to be the pursuit of money. Not money, the pursuit of money. And by the way, that's the intent of every one of us when we go to work.
I'm going to say exceeding money.
You're going to say what?
Exceeding money.
I don't understand that. What is that?
I'm not going to lie, exploit, or manipulate. to get 40,000 a month.
Oh, okay, I
Like a,
get you. Yeah,
like a lawyer is going to exploit, manipulate, and lie for
yeah,
God knows what.
yes.
And I
I
think
get.
that's the point of max wage.
Yeah, a maximum wage is a great deterrent to those who are overly zealous and ambitious, with regard to the profit motive, so that once they reach the maximum wage, well, there's no good reason for them to continue to, you know, screw over people. They made it to the top. They can stop. They can, express a little bit of humanity at that point.
Exactly.
So that would be a good thing to start is a maximum wage, and not only that, we could, I mean, yeah, maximum wage is a start, and we go from there. Once we see the effects of the maximum wage, but in actual fact, that would be a very difficult thing to implement anywhere because most of our fellow human beings think that they might make it rich someday. And then they would look at it like they're not rich, but they think that they might make it rich one day. And then they say, well, why do you want to limit, you know, how much I can make? And so they wouldn't do that because they feel like they've got this delusions of grandeur where they're going to win the lottery even. Uh, you know, um, it's that pursuit of money. It's the weapon of mass distraction. you know and we do subjugate our environment to the economy. Like if the economy, it needs to survive at all cost, and a lot of things that if we develop them would collapse our economy into oblivion. It wouldn't even exist in the form that it's at now, and that could happen just by, let's just imagine something. Let's imagine that there's a device that can extract energy from our ionosphere itself and concentrate it in a kinetic way to be able to fuel our TVs and our computers and our blenders and stuff like that. Well, that's like free energy if you pull it out of the ionosphere of the planet and use it to get work done. And you can continue to do that eternally. You wouldn't wear it out. Like, we wouldn't run out of fuel. We wouldn't run out of fossil fuels or, any of that kind of stuff. All I'm saying is that, there are technologies that are being suppressed by virtue of the profit motive. Because if they were developed, they would cost less, so which means it would make less money, and, it would free the people, the people of Earth. So we're enslaved a lot of times too by things that enslave us are our desires, for the most part, but also what enslaves us is our fear of standing up to what enslaves us. So I see a lot of cowardice out there, a lot of cowardice. But I know a lot of people don't understand what, you know, um, uh, yeah, I mean, people think that, oh,
That's
yeah, I'm brave, I want to go over and kill somebody in another country. Yeah, right. That's not bravery.
it's like that. The combination of max wage and ethical capitalism.
Hmm.
You. I think you would see a hell of a lot more. Solar panels on different buildings. I would see, you know, different technologies generating wind, you'd see a hell of a lot more solar panels
Yeah.
because, people, they would just stop making their six figures. The limit would be, five figures, be it 90,000 a year.
Yeah.
And then they find out they can live comfortably on 90,000 a year. 90,000 a year. Even if they were married.
Yeah.
And they could have a retirement account. They could have an investment account. They could have bonds.
Mm-hmm.
And they can live comfortably.
That's right. And we you know what, that's just lends my, like, I love to say this because it's true. All the world's resources are the common heritage of not only all the world's people, but all the world's earthlings, as we are stewards of this planet. And we're not really being good stewards, but we are still stewards of the planet. So, and what we're doing with capitalism creates the disparity that what happens is capitalism accentuates the fact that if you have more ability, then you deserve more. And in actuality, it doesn't really work that way. Because no, it doesn't work that way. But this is the simple thinking, more ability, I deserve more. I'm better than you, and this is a disrespect to all of life on the planet and themselves, as they don't realize their place. So, I mean, I don't know how I'd say this, but our abilities, our responsibilities come from our ability to respond. Response to ability is responsibility. Now, you can only respond to the level of your ability, and that's what makes it equal to everybody, even if you have less ability than, say, somebody else.
And I'm just going to say this. People are going to say, we're talking about socialism or we're talking about capitalism. It's not that. We're talking about, an ethical form of capitalism.
Well,
and I'm not saying like a government-controlled capitalism. I'm saying just, if you combine just a little bit of humanity with capitalism, with corporations, having less of their dirty little hands in the stock market and just being able to distribute their billions, to help out their employees, distributing money among your employees, that's not socialism. That's paying your employees without having hands in your, in the fucking shareholders or the stock market. That's not socialism. That's paying your employees.
That's right.
And people are going to say that's socialism. People are going to say that's capitalism. It's not.
You know what you could say it is? It's being equitable. It doesn't have to be an ism. It could be called equitableism if you want. But, if you take away the ism, that's the foundation of the word. Social, capital, whatever. That's what happens is people don't understand the language, and they don't understand the significance uh, connected to the words that we use. So just because you put an ism at the end of it, it's a bad thing to be social? I wonder.
You're right. Socialism, social lies.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
It's just messed up.
Well, it is because we're confused. Most of our fellow human beings are confused about what the words they say mean. They don't know. They don't have clear definitions for the words that they use, so they don't know what they're saying. Hey, what's wrong with community? What's wrong with community? Oh, wait a minute. That's communism. That's what's wrong with community? Because you can put an ism at the end of it? It makes it wrong? To actually want a community? Community is a place where people take care of each other? And that's a bad thing? Kind of weird to me. That's why I think the world's insane. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're saying. And they're okay with it. They're okay with not knowing what they're saying and not knowing what they're doing. So yeah, it's a bit tricky. It's a bit tricky. When you look at this world from a purely realistic point of view of the foundational meanings of the words that we use, and knowing that that's what the word is based on. And then you can hate liberals because it provides liberty. I'm a conservative, a liberal, whatever. Holy man, I like to conserve energy too and be liberal. And you can if you have the appropriate understanding of what those words mean and how to attain them. What it truly means to be liberal is to respect each other. There's an ancient teachings, they were called the seven liberal arts. That didn't mean that they were, Obama supporters. The seven liberal arts were what taught you how to liberate your mind by understanding the realm that we're in and the laws that govern it, and your choice and your place within it. So many people are lost about those things, and also, a lot of times, and you can check this out any day you'd like by asking anybody you're talking to that uses a word and you think they're using it incorrectly based on the way you understand it. All you got to do is say, "What's that word mean to you?" And you'll find out it's a totally different meaning than what you thought it might be. And some people, when you ask them, they don't even know. They can't even tell you what it means to them because they don't have a clear definition. They got a fuzzy understanding that could be way off, and it is most of the time, because they haven't made the effort to go and read the dictionary and to understand the constructs of language, the syntax and how you order your words to make a comprehensible sentence or statement.
I don't know. It could be a war of, context, intent, perception,
Mm-hmm.
what people think, what one word means. They think it's left wing, or another word, they think it's right wing, and
Yeah.
it just gets so messed up. It's like,
Hey, did you want to know something about left wing and right wing?
go ahead.
They're both wings on the same bird. There is no real difference, right wing, left wing. They're just parts of the same bird.
I
Because capitalism is the wing. You know, I see capitalism as an intent to profit. I see capitalism, is it's about the intent to profit. That's what else. If you take away the profit motive, the profit enshrine, like the actual.
holy shit. Can you hear me okay? What the hell?